Hello everyone, this is Jared with N2N Services. Today we'll be presenting mobile app development versus mobile web development. We're going to give you guys a hard look at today's mobile markets. First of all, we want to cover what kind of audience do you plan to be making your project for. With that in mind, we need to know what kind of content that this audience would need or want. Specifically, if it's in the medical industry and if you're developing a mobile web or else a mobile application for specifically the medical industry, then you're going to want to tailor your content around that kind of crowd. We also want to establish what kind of communication, what kind of tools is this audience going to need? And do we want to allow them to be able to communicate to each other, and how do we go about doing that? It's very important in this social media based world that making connections is often very important for the kind of application or mobile web design that you're going to be building. Furthermore, we want to discuss how much volume do you plan to put out when it comes to your application. How much effort, how much energy, and how much potential can this application or mobile web design have? We want to discuss also variability. Does your solution need access to a lot of information from different data sources? How will you collect and process this information accurately? We also want to know what kind of visual aspects will your mobile application or else your mobile web design have. We want to make it as visually appealing as possible. We want to be able to communicate your message clearly to everybody who's going to be viewing your product. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss a few things here as far as mobile application development goes. First of all, we're going to be covering what is it. Also, as well, have a plan. What operating system can use it, what development system to make it with, the tools you'll need for testing. We're going to be covering the lazy user model, where to sell it, and basically how to distribute it. As far as mobile web development goes, we're also going to be discussing what is mobile web development, all the knowledge required to use and do mobile web development, what kind of browsers do we want to use it, easiest and most popular way to develop a mobile website, the web develop toolbox, the styles of mobile web development, and how to market that as well. So, to start with, we want to cover mobile application development. When we think about a mobile application, we think of an iPad, a Droid, an iPhone, something that is small enough to be able to use the application you have, small enough yet strong enough to use the application that you are going to develop. We want to make it so that it will be easy enough to push it out and be used by any low power handheld device. I also want to mention too that Acer's little netbooks, the netbooks that people are so familiar with, those don't really count as a mobile device. That basically is a very miniaturized laptop, so that doesn't really count. Now, before we actually get started with a mobile application development, we need to have a good solid plan on what it is you want to do. You definitely don't want to dive into something without having any idea of what your future end goal is going to be. Usually the discover as you go plan is not a very useful plan, and oftentimes you'll find yourself buried, or else you'll find yourself very behind in terms of scheduling, planning, and everything else involved. So, know what you want before you start. What is your main goal? You're definitely going to want to set up a list of resources. And when I say resources, I mean tools, people who know how to do it, Google, the internet. Pretty much know where to find the resources you need. You're going to want to write down your plan so you'll be able to follow it. You want to know exactly what is your application going to do and how will it do it. Make sure the tools you want to use will allow you to follow your plan. And make sure you do stick with the tools that will allow you to follow your plan. Furthermore, we want to know what kind of operating system can use it. And when I say operating system for a mobile device, typically I'm referring to Android operating system, iOS, BlackBerry, HP, WebOS Symbian, and very similar other operating systems out there. When you develop an application for an operating system, a mobile operating system, you typically want to stick with something that is the most popular and the most well-known and used. You definitely don't want to develop something for an operating system that no one is really going to use out there. There's few out there that aren't too familiar, that many people don't really know that well. I would say it would probably be around HP, WebOS, Symbian, things like that. Windows Mobile, it's known, but it's not the most popular. Android and usually Apple's iPhone and iPad, the iOS operating systems typically are going to be the most popular. So those are the ones you probably want to stick with when it comes to mobile application development. Furthermore, we want to know what kind of development system to make this mobile application on. I only chose a few to give you guys an idea on what to start searching for. When you go to Google and you search for a web development system, for a mobile development system, you're basically going to look for a few key factors involved when you're actually searching for and finally deciding what you want in a development system and what you want your product to do. There are many different development systems out there. I chose 3 here as an example. We have Moble, Feed Henry, and MoSync. Now, I would say Moble is a pretty good system because here's why. It has a wide variety of programming languages. In this case here, we have HTML5, JavaScript, CSS3. There is enough here in programming language that if you were to find 3 or 4 other individuals and each only knew one kind, one individual knew HTML5, another knew Java, another knew CSS3, all 3 of those individuals will be able to successfully work on your project using Moble. Now, there are many development systems out there that only have one programming language. So make sure that at least you can have 2 or 3 other programming languages with your development system so you can have a wide range of programming languages to use when you're developing this application. Furthermore, you want to make sure that the development system you use can actually be developed and used across many different operating systems when it comes back to the mobile operating systems. So in this case here, don't use a development system that only works on Android, because you'll basically pigeonhole yourself into that operating system only, whereas the iPhone and iPad users won't be able to take advantage of the application that you're developing. Many different development systems out there also have a debugger and an emulator. Those are tools you're using and you will use to find the program's errors and the various problems in the program while you're developing. It will help you to find what is and is not going to work. In this case here, when you run a debugger on we'll just use Moble. When you run your debugger on Moble, and you think your project is finished, the debugger and the emulator will allow you to try out this product that you developed and to find out if it's going to work or not for you. It will also tell you what is wrong with the program if it breaks for whatever reason. That's basically what a debugger does. So it's a good idea to have definitely a good idea to have a debugger, emulator, basically testing tools inside your development system. You also want to go for something that's free. Everybody loves free. No need to go and spend, a few $100 on a development system license out there for something that is not free. If you find something in Google and it has great ratings, but it's not free, typically that doesn't mean it's going to be the best. It means it's just going to cost money and it'll have a support team behind it. But, oftentimes learning the hard way with free and learning the hard way by figuring out yourself means you're going to absorb that knowledge and hang on to it for the rest of your life. Another couple examples we have is Feed Henry and MoSync. As you can see, MoSync has C and C++. Like I said, more programming languages, that's pretty good. MoSync is a pretty good app development system. Okay, so I want to mention a few other tools that you'll need for testing. Now, basically, the ones we have here, MonkeyTalk, Eggplant, Robotium, Sakuli, these are basically automation tools and GUI-based tools that will help you and help individuals who are not used to command line programming. When I say command line programming, we're talking about simply adding text to an address bar and watch it go to town. All you'll see is text. GUI means graphical user interface. So you definitely want to use tools typically that have graphical user interface if you are not used to command line programming. So basically from this point, you want to stick with something that is free, like I mentioned previously, and at the same time you want to make sure that you have good tools that you know you can use to help you develop your mobile application. We also want to discuss the lazy user model. Now, to sum up the lazy user model, basically it means the easiest way for an individual to obtain the answers and responses they need using your application. In other words, you don't want to develop something that has 20 or 30 buttons on your mobile application device screen that's going to confuse your user. Make it as easy as possible. The least amount of effort is usually the winner when it comes to mobile application development. So you want to design a few buttons that will do the things that you need to get done without burying your user or your individual who wants to try out your program in a bunch of needless information and a maze of possibilities they don't need to worry about. So basically, if you want to know more about the lazy user model, Google is your friend. You can definitely learn much more about the lazy user model and how you can apply it to your mobile application development. Now we want to know where do we want to sell and distribute our application. Let's say we got a team about 4 or 5 people. We got it taken care of. It's looking good. You ran your testing tools, you ran your emulators, your debuggers. Everything's working great on it. So now we got to figure out how to get it out to the masses. Now there are 2 main ways of getting this out to the masses. The first is using the native operating system, and the second is using a third-party platform. Now what a native operating system app store typically entails is, as example, you have Android has Google Play Store. That is how they get their applications that are developed on Android out to the rest of the people. In this case here, we also have App Catalog, or else you have Nokia Store. Now, Nokia phones will have the Nokia Store, but they will not have Google Play Store because that is Google's native operating system app catalog. That's their native operating system app store. So at this point here, what we need to do is we need to get our application out to all the stores. Even though you may have focused on Android operating system for your mobile application, you can still get it to function and go to the rest of the operating systems through a third-party platform. In this case here, Amazon App Store, or else App Center, MobeSpot, or else Sakai Mall, those are third-party platforms that can host your product and push it out to any operating system. It isn't tied down to a native operating system. However, it doesn't hurt to use all the different app possibilities as much as possible because you're basically pushing your product out to a wider range of audience. And it's exactly where we want to go. All right, so now we're going to discuss mobile web developments. First of all, let's go ahead and clarify that when we talk about mobile web development, there's a few different options concerning mobile web development. Basically, mobile web development is the same as a full website development, except it's on a smaller scale. We all know that it's aimed at all mobile devices if possible. It's typically about the same amount of work required to set up a mobile web development as it is application development. So there's no shortcuts involved. One side isn't going to be easier. Literally, you take what you're familiar with and you aim that way. If you want to really learn about mobile web development, it'll be the same amount of work as if you want to learn about mobile application development. So there's definitely no shortcuts. We also want to take note that it's going to be viewable by regular internet users on desktops as well. So even though you may develop a mobile website, it will still be able to be seen on desktops. I can't say that would be the case for many mobile applications out there because those are particularly aimed at, obviously, mobile devices. All right, so when you start to look into mobile web development, you're going to want to retain a little bit of knowledge on the following. You're going to want to know a little bit of knowledge of servers and the applications involved in setting up web development. Linux and Windows are two main server operating systems that you would typically run and set up and install your website on. Linux is the fastest, most secure, and the most popular when it comes to setting up a website typically. You're going to want to have a little bit of knowledge of databases. In this case here, SQL, MySQL, MS Access. I have to say that MySQL is probably the most popular out there. I myself use MySQL on any kind of website setup, and I like to use that personally, so I stick with that. You want to have knowledge of the resources at hand. I would say that Google literally is your friend. You can go to Google and you can literally search how to build a website using a content management system. How to build a website. In this case, we'll just say WordPress. That's the most popular. Google will tell you how to do it, and it'll give you information that you never even knew about. It'll tell you anything and everything on how to build a website. And there are many knowledge bases out there, many people out there willing to put their 2 cents in on how to build a website. You'll definitely have a large base of knowledge to pull from. I mentioned content management system earlier because content management system is basically the tool to build your website. I would say it's probably very similar to a mobile application development system such as Moble and the other systems I mentioned earlier. In much the same way that application development system will help you build your mobile application, the same way a content management system will help you build your website. Now, another thing to know about, in this case, if you are not familiar with setting up your own servers and running everything manually, handling everything manually, and being responsible for the server as well as all the knowledge involved in setting up a site manually, oftentimes a hosted solution is going to be your best friend. So in this case here, you might want to consider GoDaddy or maybe Rackspace. I would say GoDaddy.com would probably be the easiest because they have a large knowledge base and is very popular. It certainly is a leading hosted solution provider out there these days, as well as your domain name, anything else involved in getting your mobile web development set up. So GoDaddy and WordPress.com, those are two very powerful tools in helping you set up your mobile web development. So definitely have a good knowledge of those. Do a little bit of research and Googling and figure out what they are, and it won't let you down. All right, so while we're developing our mobile website, we definitely want to aim at not just desktop browsers, but also mobile web browsers out there. So the best thing to do is to go and find the browser of the native operating systems that you plan to use, the most popular browser for that operating system, and make sure you tailor your website around that. They allow it to function on that. In this case here, I put a few desktop version browsers such as Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Opera, but don't forget that your mobile website can be seen on many different operating systems, not just your desktop operating systems, but also your mobile browsers as well. So make sure you look into finding what mobile browsers that you want to tailor your website around, and make sure the content management system you choose, in this case I recommend WordPress, make sure that the theme you choose in your content management system will help you develop and allow you to put your mobile website on these mobile browsers without any problems. make sure you also have good version coverage on that as well. So don't develop something that will only function on, let's example, Internet Explorer 8 or 9, because we're obviously getting up there in versions, so you want to make sure that all the browsers are obviously going to be at the latest version. Alright, so what is going to be the most popular way to develop a mobile website? I mentioned previously that GoDaddy.com literally will walk you step by step through setting up a hosted website. A hosted solution is going to be your best bet. Now, you can also check out Web.com, Rackspace, and DreamHost, but I would say that GoDaddy is probably the most intuitive for a hosted solution. A hosted solution means they're going to literally set up the server for you and literally make it so easy that you're going to press buttons such as, I want to use WordPress, and WordPress will literally be installed and set up on your server for you. So there's no logging in using an SSH tool. There's no logging in and dropping files into the server, such as using FileZilla, file FTP, that kind of thing. You don't have to worry about that. GoDaddy will literally take care of that for you. Now, we also want to mention the most popular and supported CMSs out there. I put 3 on here. WordPress, Joomla, and ModX are probably the most popular, but I would say that WordPress is by far the biggest and most supported out there. You're going to see many people out there using WordPress over Joomla or ModX, but still, Joomla and ModX are more popular than many other CMS out there. So I would say and recommend that WordPress would probably be the easiest way to start mobile web development. Okay, we want to know a few other tools inside of our web development toolbox. We already know that WordPress is a content management system. Inside WordPress, once you have that base content management system installed, WordPress uses themes. You can find themes on themeforce.com to get the look and feel, the kind of look and feel you want for your website, for your mobile website. You also want to know a few database tools, such as PHPMyAdmin. Now, database tools are good for backing up your database on your website. So in case if it ever crashes, if anything ever goes wrong, you have a backed up database to basically pull down from. Now, you don't have to use PHPMyAdmin on the GoDaddy.com hosted solution because they have an intuitive backup system in place, as well as a large knowledge base on how to do it and how to use it. So database tools are typically good to know anyways, but it's your call. A knowledge base. Google literally will tell you anything and everything you need to know about WordPress. It will point you to where you need to go to learn how to use WordPress and to learn how to tailor it the way you want it to look on your mobile website. Now, it's a good idea to know a little bit of Linux. If you don't know Linux, it wouldn't hurt to go read up a few base commands, a few good things to know for beginners on Linux, and you can often find that by doing a Google search. Putty is probably a very easy SSH tool. Now, Putty is going to be a command line tool. For those of you who only know GUI, it wouldn't hurt to dabble a little bit in an SSH tool such as Putty. You're going to want to learn the ins and outs of controlling your server through SSH and logging into your server and basically just getting around your server just using a command line tool such as Putty. Now, FileZilla is basically, it's a FTP tool that allows you to transfer large files or whatever to your server from your desktop when you're developing and setting up and managing your mobile website. It allows you to transfer files to your server that is hosting your WordPress mobile website. Now, these are all great tools, but keep in mind GoDaddy makes it intuitive and easy where often you don't need to have a lot of knowledge on this. You don't need to have much involvement with all these various tools because GoDaddy makes it very, very easy for you. However, if you want to become a pro at it, it would not hurt to know these tools because this will definitely help you down the road as you build more websites and you become better at doing so. Styles. There are basically two styles I want to focus on when we're talking about mobile web design. The first one is mobile focused. When I mention mobile focus, I'm referring to a theme that you would download to your WordPress content management system that would be based on and made for specifically mobile devices. Now, what this means is a mobile focused theme will look best on a mobile device, and most likely it will be a little easier to set up. Now, because it's mobile focused, it means it can be brought up on a desktop browser, but the browser is going to be obviously bigger and it wouldn't quite look right. It wouldn't quite look as good as, say, a regular desktop browser based website. The second style I want to mention here is responsive design. Now, the biggest difference with responsive design is that you can literally build a website, a regular website, using responsive design. And when that website is viewed on a mobile device, you will be able to literally zoom in. You'll be able to literally bring up the website and it will automatically restructure all the boxes, all the content, everything to fit on that mobile device. That means you won't need to worry about your users logging into or looking at the website and having to zoom in really close to be able to read the content and then move their thumbs all around the device in order to scroll to the left or right to be able to view the website. It literally will allow users, whether they view it with their mobile device or whether they view it with a regular desktop browser, it will be the same size wording and the same size font. It will just be restructured so that way it will fit on the device. So basically more detail and a little more effort is required to make it transition nicely. So there might be a little bit more work involved in setting up a responsive design. But the nice thing about this is it literally will automatically readjust to fit any browser. So we're not talking about just iPhones and Droids. We're also talking about obviously the iPads or Droid tablet. Those are a little bit bigger than the iPhones. Those are a little bit bigger than the Droids, but they're not as big as, say, a regular desktop browser on a regular monitor. So things will be a little bit positioned different, whereas a mobile focused website, mobile web design, will typically be focused mostly just for mobile web devices. So it may not look as good, like I mentioned previously, on a desktop browser. All right, so now we know we got the mobile web set up. We know we have the site set. It looks great on the desktop because you're using responsive design. It looks great on a mobile device. A mobile focused theme will look even better and be easier to set up on something such as iPhone and Droid, when you're viewing it. But either way, it's going to look nice. Now we want to talk about how to market this. Now, typically, if you set up this site and you put little to no effort into it, it's not going to get real far as a Google search goes. You may end up on the 6th or 7th page way in the back of a Google search. So how do we tell Google to bring us up, to put us on the first page, maybe even the #1 spot? There are a few different ways to do this. Typically, search engine optimization, or SEO for the acronym, would be a way of allowing Google to see and notice your site among many other sites that might be similar, which will then push it up to the front of a Google search. So you're going to have to Google search engine optimization, and you're going to have to figure out what exactly is search engine optimization and what's involved in doing it. Another method is Google clicks, which in this case are pay-per-click, which when you do a Google search, oftentimes you'll find a little ad, or else somebody is put in a sponsored position on a Google search. So they're not considered number 1 or 2 or 3 on a Google search. They're right above it in a little area that allows you to see their ads first before anybody else that you would do a Google search for. That's pay-per-click. Typically, the most expensive pay-per-clicks are going to be in the very front of a Google search, and often pretty much at the top of a Google search. So you can expect anywhere to pay from $1 to $100 per click. What that means is when someone clicks on a Google search banner or an ad for your site, it's going to cost you their click. So every time someone clicks on it, it'll cost you $1 for that click. And that's one way of advertising. I have to mention though that blogging, guest blogging, Facebook ads, Twitter, YouTube, general social media is oftentimes the most powerful method out there. Because what that is that's content on the internet. That's internet presence. That's very important because Google will see that. And if you have good content out there that Google notices, it will put you oftentimes on the first page of a search. So search engine optimization, it usually involves using the general social media out there to put your content out there. Okay, so YouTube videos on your product, Twittering about it, Facebook ads, everything helps when it comes to marketing your website today. So let's go ahead and cover a brief summary of these two major points here. Mobile application development obviously does not require the internet. Typically, it's only on a mobile device, whereas a mobile web development can be browsed on desktops and mobile devices. It has blog functionality on a mobile scale. It's a great way to connect everybody, and one way it can be seen is Facebook for mobile devices. But it does require internet access. And although someone may have a mobile device, they may be out of range of a cell phone tower. They may not be able to have internet access. And if you're in the medical field, oftentimes that can't be a very good thing when they're trying to access their mobile website to use the mobile web applications that you have on your little mobile website, but there's no internet access, so that can present a slight problem. Now keep in mind that mobile applications can use the internet. You can tie them to the internet, but typically the strength of a mobile application is it doesn't have to be tied to the internet, whereas a mobile website does. So I want to mention that your best learning source will be Google. Google is your strongest friend when it comes to learning how to do any of these items. You could literally search for mobile application development, or how to develop a mobile application, or how to develop a mobile website, and you will find pages and pages of plenty of resource for you to learn how to do this. Oftentimes, it doesn't hurt to go through the various resources and figure out which one's easier for you to learn and understand. So don't just stick with one website you found that shows you how to do a mobile web development, because there are many ways to do it, and there are many different ways to do it. Furthermore, the most powerful thing you can have doing this project is going to be motivation. Now, degrees and certifications are great, but really what gets people to new heights is motivation. You always need to stay motivated. Don't give up just because it starts getting a little bit rough. You may have to go do a little bit more reading. You may have to do a little bit more research. Drink your Red Bull and start pounding away on the internet to find the answers to what you need. Oftentimes, go to a forum. Go to a forum of a bunch of wizards who know how to do these things and ask them. But make sure you read the forum rules first. So with that in mind, we encourage you guys to go ahead and dig into mobile application development, mobile web development, because there are many resources out there, including people like us, who are more than willing to help you in any way we can. So with that in mind, we thank you very much for watching this presentation. If you have any questions, please be sure to contact us, and we thank you for your time. This is N2N Services.com signing out.